Okay, so today for another video tutorial, we're going to work on my Berry Blues table runner, and I'm just doing the applique portion on the tutorial here. So I've already got my background sewn, and here's one of the kits, how it will come. So you've got your background fabrics and your binding all in the kit. Got your pattern, and then if you flip it over here, these are all of your laser cut appliques. So when you buy any of my kits, you should always make sure that you get a pattern in the kit. Sometimes they'll have just the laser pre-kit. You'll just see this part, no pattern, and it will say pattern sold separately on it. But just so that you know, on my website and some stores might have it where it doesn't have the pattern included. You will want to make sure you have a pattern. So if you're buying from my website, I have an option with or without a pattern. That is because if you have a pattern already, you don't need another one and you can just get the kit without the pattern. If you have already made one and you want to make a second one, you don't need a second pattern, so you can buy just the kit without a pattern. But if you're doing the first one, you need a pattern for a couple reasons. One, we have this pieced background. Of course, you're going to need the instructions for that. And two, you also have inside your pattern this layout guide down here. And you have all your applique pieces here that are all numbered so that you know what's what. So trying to do this mess without a pattern is going to be very difficult. So save yourself some frustration and heartache and just get your pattern and you'll be much happier. Okay, so first thing in the pattern, I'm gonna go ahead and just open this up and go over some of the instructions. So I'm not going to do the piecing portion of it, of course. I've already got that done. If you're having any trouble when it comes to the kind of basics with quilting, I always recommend folks utilize your local quilt shops and the people there. They will be very helpful and should be able to easily help you walk you through some of this process. Everything is 1/4 inch seams. It's very simple, very basic. Here's your instructions. And one of the things I want to mention, always first instruction of all of mine, is that you want to pre-wash your fabrics. So when you get your kit, all this stuff, all these laser cuts, these have already been pre-washed. I pre-wash all the laser cut fabrics before they go through the machine. This stuff here, your borders, your bindings, backgrounds, things like that, these have not been pre-washed. So I can tell you, especially with this one, that these blues in particular will bleed like crazy. You need to wash these first. If you don't, down the road, when you get a spill on your table runner or it gets a little dusty or something happens and you decide to wash it, or actually, even when you go to fuse and you're applying steam, that can cause bleed. So these colors here, for sure, and even this one, are going to bleed. And this one in particular, the darkest one that you're binding, it will get mess all over everything. So please run them through the wash cycle on your washer, throw them in the dryer. You'll be much happier in the end that you've done that and not run into bleeding, even when you go to steam. But especially in the future, if you ever need to wash it, the washing and drying process also blocks your fabric. It shrinks everything. So then you don't end up having issues where something maybe twists after it comes out of the dryer or bunches up. So please, please, please follow instruction step 1 on all my kits and make sure that you pre-wash all those borders, backgrounds, bindings, because you're gonna really regret it if you don't. And it's a quick step. If you don't want to throw it in a washer, or if they're really small pieces, you can also just take them to your sink, warm up the water, and rinse them until the color goes away, until your waters get running clear, and then throw them in the dryer. Or if they're really small pieces that you're doing that with, you can always dry them with your iron too. But definitely pre-rinse or pre-wash everything. Make sure you get all that extra dye out and do your shrinking and your blocking. Okay, so in the instructions, this first page is all about piecing and putting together your background. Because we're not going to go through that, and we've already got our background, I'm just going to skip that page. And if you need help, again, talk with your local quilt shops. Those folks there, it's real simple, basic quilting. You will be able to get help from them and get you to this point. So now we're going to skip forward to page 2, and on the back, step 7 is saying trace all your applique pieces twice. So we're not having to do that part, right? Because we have a laser kit. We already have everything. Everything is already cut out for us. We've got our laser stuff ready. So on this step, you don't really actually have to worry about anything besides labeling your pieces. So with any of my kits, you're going to want to go and get your pattern, your layout guide, and here's your layout guide, here's all your applique pieces, and you're going to want to go and like right here with the pink blossoms. Now remember, we're doing 2 branches. They're the same branch and they meet each other in the middle. So we have 2 sets of everything. So here, my pink blossoms. I'm going to go through and I'm going to label with a pencil. I love using these little mechanical pencils. I particularly love these exact ones. They're by Papermate, the Sharp Writer #2 USA pencil. I love these ones. They stay nice and sharp. They don't smear a lot. These are my favorite pencil to use for doing the labeling. So I go through and I write A, G, G, M, M. Now, some of these ones here, you'll notice, this is one of the kits where I actually have these little arrows on them. Here's an arrow. Sometimes they fall out, but there, now you can see the little arrow there. This is telling you this way's up. So when you have your lavender, because they're berries and they're all kind of circles, sometimes it's like, which way? So that way's up. Up is if you're reading lavender berries in pieces. So again, label everything, write it down, and you got 2 of everything. So do it twice. Get all your pieces labeled, and then we will be ready to go. So to begin the first of 2 berry branches, lay pieced background over the layout guide, centering the runner vertically and horizontally using the dash marks. So the dash marks we have here on our layout guide, and here is our vertical and our horizontal. So I'm going to turn my light table on. Now, if you're new to this, you may not have a light table. You may want to get a light table by the time you're done with this, if you enjoy it. And if you don't have one and you're not ready to invest, I can tell you a couple different easy ways to do it. If you have a glass table in your house, a dining room table or a coffee table, you can always use that glass table and stick a lamp under it or a flashlight or something. That will work. I used to do that a lot, actually. When I first started doing these sort of designs, I had a glass kitchen table and I would just stick my lamp under it. You can also get this where you want it, clip it or tape it or pin it somehow to your background, and then put it up against a window and you'll be able to see through it. Now, a lot of our design is going through this light white area, and you might notice even in the video here that I can see through the white pretty well. But as we get into these blue areas, it's going to be harder to see through the fabric and see the lines. So light table. Oh, I have mine on really dim. Hang on, let me turn it up. Ooh, now I can see the lines through everything. Really nice and clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my center. Now this is my horizontal center, and I don't mark it myself. You can if you want to take like a chalk marker or something and mark your center. But I know through these points, I want to keep the line through those points and then through this center area here, through these points. So I'm just going to find my center, looking through here. Here's my horizontal center. I've got it, or sorry, your vertical. I've got my vertical center good, and here's my horizontal. I'm up a little high, so I'm just going to scooch it down, kind of keep it through those points. Well, look at my dash line, and get it right in the right spot. Okay, perfect. So now I usually just leave mine here like this. If you want, you can put something to like weight it down so it doesn't wiggle or move. Or there's also these little clippies. Mom, do you have those little clippies? So, well, also one of the things that my mom's been doing is using these little clover clips that they're called Wonder Clips. And you can take these, and if you want, go ahead and clip it to your fabric and your paper in a few places and hold it, and that holds it in place really well too. I usually, you can even use some tape if you want, but a lot of the times I'll put a weight, and I do sometimes like to lift the corner up and look at my layout underneath. If I'm like looking for number 7, where is number 7? Sometimes it's hard to read those little letters and numbers through the fabric. So being able to also flip it up or give yourself that ability, however you clip it, to be able to like lift it and peek, because sometimes when I'm having a hard time finding one, I flip it up and it's like, oh, there it is. Okay, so I know this is 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I got my little group there. So anyways, now that I've got my, pull it over a tiny bit, got my vertical and my horizontal center. Going to go to the next step here, which is to arrange berries 1 and 2. So I'm going to grab all my little berries over here, and I don't need my leaves this second. Grab my berries and let me find, here's, 1 and 2. So they're going to be in this kind of medium blue. Pop them out. And when you pop these out, the way the laser works, it's little perforated dots of burn essentially, and they're tiny ones. And so the way that I set up my settings when I cut them is to try to keep them where they will hold within the sheet but pop out really easily when you give them a little tug. So there we go, that one's out. And occasionally when you're doing that, a thread might catch and not want to pull out. Instead of yanking it out, go ahead and take some little thread scissors and snip it. Or like in this case, and it might be hard to see, I have a little thread sticking out. I'm just going to snip that little thread off. So we want to put 1 and 2 down. Now 1 and 2 are a little hard to find. Here's number 1. It goes behind the branches just to give it that 3-dimensional look. And so we're going to put number 1 down. And these are all kind of circles. Don't be too particular about which way your circle's going. I mean, if it's a really elongated one, which I don't think any of them are, you might want it to be a certain way. But in general, if it, just plop them in there. Don't be too worried about them being perfect. Nature is not perfect, and your design does not have to be perfect. Now I'm looking for number 2. Where's number 2? Oh, there it is. Okay. And if you ever need to do that like lifting up thing, hold it down with one hand and lift it up, and then layer back down, and make sure you recenter yourself every time so that you're not getting way off. But numbers 1 and 2 down. So now we're going to arrange one of the branches. So again, here's my branch, the brown. I got 2 of them on this sheet, and I'm just going to pop it out. Now the branch is a little skinny, so you want to be kind of delicate. Don't pull too hard. And again, if you have any threads that catch and aren't coming off with a little gentle tug, then you want to grab those thread scissors and get them out, because you don't really want to tear it. Now, if you do happen to tear something, it's a very easy fix to kind of mend that tear. And if that were to happen, get this branch out of the way, and say like this little part pulled apart, what I would just do there is I would take both parts, lay it down, and then take the little broken part or the little torn off part and just lay it right next to it and just kind of butt it up against itself. And when you go to do the steaming, it kind of just heals. The glue will just sort of fuse, and it usually just sort of blends right away and you don't really see it. If you have any crazy threads sticking out or something, you can trim those off if you have a tear like that, just to clean it up a little, and then do that little healing. Okay, so when I do a big piece like this, the other thing that I'll do is I don't just like start on one end and go to the other, because also sometimes when you're peeling that paper off with these little thin ones, sometimes it just slightly stretches the fabric and the applique. And so sometimes even if it fits really great up here, by the time you get to the end, sometimes it's like, oh, it's about a 1/4 inch longer. So to make sure that if there is any accidental little stretching as you peel that paper off, I usually will sort of start in the middle, and I like to find like a point like this, like a little V, that I can find where that V is. And I can see right here, the V and this little sprig of branches that's sticking out from there. And I'm going to lay it there, and just sort of let this drop and just sort of guide it. Guide these little pieces along gently till I get to the end. And the same with, oh here, let's get this one. So just gently, and it should just kind of fall into place. If you're having to like really force something, then you might have your applique off a little bit, because you shouldn't really have to force them. They really just sort of fit right. They just sort of lay down right where they're kind of supposed to. Some of these ones that have a real skinny edge, you might need to kind of, if it fell and it's off a little bit, you might pick it up gently and just sort of place it where it's supposed to go. But it should lay pretty flat and pretty nicely and evenly. Okay, so next, I'm afraid my phone might die. I have it plugged in. We'll try to hurry. Okay, so next we're going to go to arrange leaves A through X in alphabetical order. So I'm going to grab my section of leaves. I have a couple that popped out there. So I'm just going to start over here on this side. So A is on this tip, and we're just going to go down. It starts on this end and just goes all the way down. So we'll go A, B, C, D, and I'm just taking and popping these out, and then I fold over the applique towards the paper, and the paper will just sort of keep its crease and the fabric will pop right back. So it makes it really easy to pull those papers off that way if you do that little fold maneuver. F, G, and I got a little thread there. Where did I put my scissors? Here they are. Oh, here's G. G, H fell out already, so I'll grab that one. I, J, K, L, M fell out already, N, O, P, Q. Where is Q? And this is one of those times where I'm going to want to flip it up. So I'm just going to take this, all my stuff off this side. I'm just going to flip it up. Oh, Q. Oh, I see why I couldn't see it. It's on the branch. Make sure I get it straight. Okay, we're good. So Q is kind of right here laying on this branch. R, S, T, oh, T, U, flip this up, yep, And when I get into this darker blue, it's a little harder to see. So that's why being able to kind of flip up from underneath and take a look at it, it makes it a lot easier to see where the letters are. It's harder to read through the darker fabrics. And X. Okay, so next one we're going to do Arrange Blossoms A through R. So blossoms are going to be your pink, and we're starting on the left side again, working our way to the right. So just grab A, pop them out, fold that over, and peel the paper off. B, C, D. Now where is my D at? I have little groups here and there, so I have to kind of keep a look at where are they. Oh, I see. Okay, D's way over here. So I got D, E, F, G, H. Now I'm going a little fast, as you may have heard me say. My phone, I was so silly. I was like, oh, I'll do this little video tutorial. And I thought my phone is getting low. I'm going to charge it before I do the tutorial so I have enough juice to get through it. And I went and plugged in what I thought was my phone. It turned out that my phone charger and my plug-in for my little postal scale look the same, and I plugged in my postal scale instead of my phone, so it didn't charge up so much. So I had it plugged in just before I did it for a few minutes, and then I hoped by keeping it plugged in during the tutorial it would last, but it doesn't seem to want to do that because it was just going, it's dying faster than what's keeping it going, the charge. So I don't have the greatest, I think I have an old charger out here. So I'm going to go through, and hopefully we will not lose each other before I finish this branch. And then the second branch, what you will do once you get finished with this is you actually flip it around and you reline this up, and you see this up here. There's a placement for this branch we're working on once you flip it, and I'll flip it and line it up and show you how that works as far as doing the second side, because essentially what I'm doing right now, you just repeat. You do it all over again with the second branch. So we'll see as far as I can go. And I'm pretty fast. Obviously, I've done this a few times. This design I actually did in 2013. Or no, I'm sorry, 2011. My daughter was a year old. Actually, she was months old when I started this. And it's one that I keep thinking someday I maybe could do it in a new color, or maybe just it won't be as popular anymore. And year after year, people just love this blueberry one. And so I'm like, well, I guess I'm just going to keep on going with this one. To the point where I'm even, doing it again over 10 years later. So, okay, next we're going to do Arrange Berries 3 through 28. So when we get to our berries here, we have a few different colors. We have green ones, so brand new, not ripe at all ones, getting there ripe ones, very nice ripe ones, right? So we're going to be pulling from the different colors. So I just kind of keep it flipped over here close by so I can see what I'm doing. And we also have pieces to those berries that are this red and this dark blue. So if you have a berry that says, like for instance, 3, this berry says 3B. Well, that means that there's a 3A. And for most of these pink berries, the A is going to be in the red. And for the blueberries, these blue ripe berries. The other part is going to be in this dark blue. And the green, I'm not positive, but I think, oh yeah, some of the green are actually in this pink, you'll see. So as we pull, we're going to do them in numerical order. And then under that, you're going to do it in alphabetical order. So 3A, 3B, and then 4A, 4B. And I don't think any of them have a C. So, so let's start here. So 3A is actually in the red. And 3 is right here. And then 3B is going to be in this pink. And again, we have 2 sets of everything. So keep in mind, I like to just go ahead, and use up from one set first. 4A is going to be in this blue, and I got a little thread sticking out. And it won't always necessarily be that like it goes dark red and then a pink on top. Sometimes the red might be on top. Sometimes the red might be on the bottom. So just kind of pay attention to the fact that, and here's my 4B in the blue, that which one goes first. Always put A first. So if you look and you get one, it's like, oh, this one is and then, oh, and these pieces, I go back and forth here, sorry. 5A, I want to keep moving, but some of these pieces too, I just also want to mention that, the berries are circular. They're they're not perfectly circular, right? But when I'm putting them down, if it's a pretty obvious, ovally shape, I'll kind of try to put it in the oval. But when I'm putting these pieces down, I don't worry that each point is perfectly in line with what's underneath. I just try to kind of fit them in the correct space. I always try to tell people that I'm not encouraging sloppiness, but I am just telling you that these designs, all the designs I do, are nature, and nature isn't perfect. And so your design doesn't have to be perfect. And if your little berry piece, this little burst in the middle looks like a little star, if your star is upside down from my star, nobody is going to know that. I will not know that. If I look at your piece, I'm not going to know it either. And I told these ladies I was doing a design a few months ago now, where I was doing a little demonstration, and beforehand I was putting all these little mussels together, and when I did the mussels, I lost a piece and I couldn't find it. It was like just one of the accent pieces on top of a mussel, and I couldn't find it, and I finally was like, well, forget it, I'm not going to worry about it. And I even told the ladies who were watching, oh, that's a B, let's grab the A, right? Sometimes it goes dark to and then medium, then sometimes it goes medium dark. But I even told the ladies that I had lost a piece and that one of them was different. And I even said it's one of the mussels. And they were looking and looking and looking, and they couldn't figure out which one it was. And I thought it was funny because I was like, I even told you it's a mussel. I seem to have lost, oh, here it is. I was going to say, I seem to have lost a berry somewhere. And they couldn't find it. And one of the ladies thought she knew which one it was. And nope, it wasn't. And none of them spotted it. And so that's one of the things I've said is like, I'm not encouraging sloppiness, but I am letting you know that you don't have to be absolutely perfect. So 9A is actually in this pink. We got our first little green berry, but you don't have to be absolutely perfect in any of these designs. And feel like, it's not going to look good when it's finished. It is going to look good. And I try to encourage people to not stress so much over, everything being exact. In some things, sure, you might want to be a little more perfectionist than in others. But in these little berries, when it comes to these little add-on pieces, if they're not exactly, and it's hard, I can't really see through all those layers right there. It's kind of hard to see what goes where. So for me, it's like, I'm just going to kind of place it where I think it looks like it's good and leave it there. And with some things too, I've told people, if you have something where you're lining something up and it's not exactly where you think it's supposed to be, and it's frustrating you because you want yours to be exactly how it's supposed to be, I've also let people know the great thing about these little appliques. Oh, so I have a piece here that the piece is really holding in. I'm going to snip it out of that background. So that little perforation there, just kind of, one of the threads just didn't get as well as cut as well as I'd like. So snip it out. Don't keep yanking if it's not wanting to come. But yeah, so anyway, so basically, if you have something where you're not really, like, something's not lining up and you tried to put it in the right place, it's just not working, and now maybe some edges that are supposed to line up and be real smooth to each other, see in the video, they're supposed to line up and be really smooth, and yours is sticking up a little like this. The great thing with these appliques is you can take some scissors and you can trim them. If you need to trim something because yours, for whatever reason, like, oh, I put this one down wrong and now this other one isn't wanting to line up and I'm frustrated because it looks funky, you can always just trim it. You know, do your own little quick fix on it so that you're happy with it. And so these, you know, they don't have to be exactly this way if you need to fiddle with something, or if you put, I've done things where I've put stuff in the wrong place and not realized it, and then I'm like, oh my goodness, that is in the wrong place, how embarrassing. And it's like, well, just, you know, if it's been fused, who cares? Probably nobody will notice. So I actually, I have a kind of funny story about that, about something being in the wrong place and nobody noticing. Oh, look at that. I just put that berry in the wrong place. So this is 13. That's 14. When you get over seams, sometimes it's hard to see because it's over a big seam, right? And I put that one actually in the wrong spot. That's supposed to go like that. 14A, 14B. So I kind of have a funny story about putting something in the wrong place. So back when my family had their fabric shop, when I was in college, I started to make samples for them. And when I was making a sample one time, I'm looking for 15. Oh, 15A right here. I was doing this design and it was with flowers. And one of the flowers was had a whole bunch of different petals. And so when you go to steam stuff, back then I was really new to all of this, so I didn't always do everything perfectly. And when I went to go steam, I didn't warm the glue up first. I didn't press anything down. So the appliques, there used to be two types of Steam-A-Seam. There used to be one called Steam-A-Seam just regular. We call it Steam-A-Seam 1. And then we also had one called Steam-A-Seam 2, which is what I use now. And Steam-A-Seam 2 sticks really well, and they actually discontinued Steam-A-Seam 1. But back when I was using Steam-A-Seam 1, it didn't hold as well and as a temporary hold. And I ended up blasting my thing with steam, and one of the little pieces like flew off to the side. And when it did that, I didn't notice that it had happened, and it was off in the sky. And I didn't even know that was wrong. I thought, oh, maybe it's blowing in the wind or something, because I put everything where it was supposed to go. Hold on one second. So I'm afraid my phone's going to die, and I may have to do this as a two-parter. So if I lose you here in a second, I will pick it back up. Oh, that one doesn't. Oh, no, it does. Hang on, I'm looking for 17B. I'll pick it back up in a part 2. So sorry about that. And oh, my 17B fell out. That's why I couldn't find it. But yeah, anyhow, I ended up fusing permanently this one little flower piece, like flying out in the sky. And I just thought, because, you know, I thought, well, I put everything where it was supposed to be. It must have been supposed to have been there. Nobody, for years, that sample hung on a wall. Nobody ever said anything about it being in a weird place. And I don't think anybody ever noticed that it was in a weird place or thought that's where it was supposed to go. So you can even put things in a very off, middle of the sky road. And if you don't say anything, I don't think anybody else is going to say anything either. So, okay, so I'm afraid my phone may crash on me any second now. And if that happens, we'll start up with a part 2 once I get it charged up a bit. I'm surprised that charging it, I guess this phone must be really, or this charger is not so good at keeping my phone going. I thought at least with it being plugged in and starting at 20% that I would be able to make it, but I guess I have a feeling I'm going to lose you any second. So we will be back for a part 2 here soon, and I'll just keep going until it disappears on me. So we're on 21. We're getting there. Oh, and a bunch of my pieces fell out. And that's one of the other things with these, with the way that they're cut. The circles, they cut so easy. And if I have these little jaggedy shapes, the machine, it has to, the way that it cuts things, the jaggedy ones, you have to change the setting versus the like just circular ones. So sometimes with ones like this pink that has both jaggedy and circular shapes, you have to find that balance where the circles don't just all fall out and the jaggedy things stay in, but both will stay in. So sometimes that means having to kind of find a middle ground where they both will stay in there. Okay, so 22. Oh, here we go, down here. There's a big group down here. So 23. Oh, but I got that staying in there. I'm almost done with this branch. And then what we would do is turn it around and flip it over. And do the other side the same way. 24.